Well, hi, you guys. I'm Michael Hausum. I'm super glad that you are here. Welcome to the Buy Better, Sell Smarter, Don't Be a Passenger workshop. So, when we're done, you're going to know how to do all three of these things: to buy better, sell smarter, and to not be a passenger. And frankly, this means that you're going to be equipped better than 99% of buyers and sellers in your marketplace. Frankly, better than 90% of realtors, too. There's so much money on the line for real estate right now. The market is nuts. The confusion and fog can be overwhelming about what to do. Also interesting, a significant percentage of everybody that registered for this completed the readiness assessment before the workshop that's designed to let you know where you're strong and where you're exposed. If you haven't taken it, when we're done here, absolutely do that. It's free, it's quick, and it'll be very helpful. So there have been people from all over the country, in Orange County here where I am, but all over the country as well, that registered. Would you do me a favor? Would you please put in the chat where you are so I can have an idea where everybody is at right now? And then also put if you're thinking about buying or selling or both, so I would know that too. That would help me. Houston, Texas. I was going to say it's warm and muggy here today, but compared to Texas, I don't think so. Okay, so John's right up to 55 for me in Yorba Linda, which is great. Okay, so thank you for doing that. So I presume that you're here for some version of one main goal outcome. If you're thinking about buying, you want the right house at the right price in the timing that's right for you. That's the big goal. And I call this buying like a pro. That is buying better. Oh, Rancho San Diego, Anderson, South Carolina. My son, my son works for the Maudlin Police Department, and he lives in Simpsonville. So I think Scott, he's just a little bit south of you. Anyway, okay. So I call this buying like a pro. That is buying better. Now, if you're a seller, you want to get the maximum possible net proceeds within your own timeline constraints. And I call that selling like a pro. That is selling smarter. And right up front, there's one important thing. What I'm going to be talking about, this is for you, whether or not you have a realtor right now, are going to be hiring one, or not going to be hiring one at all. So I want to first discuss the large amount of money that is potentially on the table for you. And this goes for whether you are buying or selling a home. And by the way, the slides that I'm going to walk through here briefly, I'm going to be sending these in the notes that you'll see today in an email after the workshop is over. So right now in the country, the median priced home is $445,000. This right here is a home for sale in Dallas, literally in the middle of the country at the median sales price. Now, the thing I want you to notice about this, obviously everybody notices the estimate part. I want you to notice what they estimate as the potential sales range for this house. Almost exactly $45,000. So if you're looking to buy or sell at the average home across the country, this is the potential swing at this price range. That's $45,000 that could be yours or it could be somebody else's. Now, the market here in Orange County is much different. The median price here, this is the exact median price for a home in Orange County. This is in Placentia at this price. And notice here, it's a $120,000 price swing. Again, it's almost a 10%. And if you go into any house in America, either between the 445 average up to Orange County or even higher, you're going to see that exact same swing. And every single house, they're going to say, yeah, this house will likely sell within 10% or so. When we're done here, do the research and do that 10% math in your head for your particular market or your house. You're going to find that 10% number to be the case 90 to 95% of the time. And definitely know this, if you're a home buyer, every seller is going to be looking at the top end of that number. And you're, of course, going to be looking at the bottom. And if you're selling a house, It's going to be the opposite, of course. And so this is the context of what we're talking about. $45,000 to $120,000 on the table, or the 10% number that you come up with for your market. Most people aren't aware of just how much of a potential gap there is for winning or losing this money. They just don't know. They just think, well, that's the price and it's going to be close, but it's a big range. And my point with this is this should get your attention and maybe even terrify you just a little bit. And it should also help to convince you that you need to have something more than just good feelings and hope before you tackle this, okay? This enormous amount of money is the first big obstacle that we need to confront. And I'm just going to assume here, I don't even need to ask it in the chat. I'm just going to assume that you do not want the other fella to end up with all of that money, okay? By the way, if you have questions that come up during this, at the end, I'm going to have a live Q&A. So rather than putting them in the chat here, just write them down or whatever. And at the end, we'll have a live Q&A for you. By now, you probably should be asking yourself, or maybe you did even before you hopped on, who the hell is this guy? And why should I listen to you? Really good question. So hi there, I'm Michael Hausum. I'm a broker in Orange County with Coldwell Banker. I first got into the business right out of school on the mortgage side 35 years ago, this past January. And then I added the real estate license a decade after that. At my previous brokerage, I was the #1 agent for years. And then at Coldwell Banker, I'm year-to-date #3 in my office. Always been in the top 5 and nationally been top 3 to 4%. The reason I bring that up is that what I'm going to be talking to you today is literally the result of decades of experience. None of this is fluff or theory, and it's stuff I'm doing every single day. Just before I got on here, I was on the phone. I've got buyers interested in a listing of mine in Costa Mesa and talking with buyers of mine looking at a house in Huntington Beach that we're going to try to buy tonight. So this is everything I'm talking about. This is active stuff I'm doing. And you've seen the phrase, and you may have heard this even today, don't be a passenger, a lot from me. So it's a really important phrase to me, and I've got 2 quick stories that are going to explain what don't be a passenger means and why I think it should be so important to you. So I'm going to show you this house here. So you see this house, right? Looks nice. I thought so too. It's in Costa Mesa, right at Fairview in the 405 freeway. It was listed for $1,350,000. And I'm going to read to you the MLS info on it, okay? It's exceptionally upgraded, boasting beautiful curb appeal, beautifully remodeled. The inviting living room has been completely upgraded throughout the house. Newer vanities, fixtures, lighting, tile surrounds, clear glass enclosures, a defined outdoor entertaining space. Don't miss this incredible opportunity to own a turnkey home. This is literally printed out right off the MLS. Now, this sounds great, doesn't it? So my clients and I went and saw this house, and it was a complete bait and switch. None of the furniture that was in the MLS and the pictures was actually in the house, and it was awful. The upgrades were old and tired. Turnkey? No, it was more like turn the lock and throw away the key. The house was a complete mess. Dirty, junk everywhere. I literally pulled up my phone to double check the MLS printout just to make sure we were in the right house. Furthermore, it was an active substance abuse recovery home. Every single bedroom had multiple bunk beds, clothes everywhere. It literally was a business that we were in. It was so awful. My clients could not wait to get out of there. Despite, based on price, location, it was exactly what they were looking for. The disconnect between what we thought we were going to see and what we did see is probably $150,000 mistake at least. Now, this is the important part and why I bring this up. It was listed by one of the top agents in the county, actually one of the top agents in the country. I printed out her marketing page. And I don't want to tell you the city because it's not about her. This particular city's #1 realtor for 24 straight years. number one resale agent in Orange County for the last 5 years, $2.7 billion in lifetime sales, and $275 million closed last year alone. Think for a quick second about this homeowner. They hired one of the very top agents in the country. Literally, very few agents sell as many houses for as many dollars as they do. And they assumed that they were in the very best of hands. But what was really happening is that their money was just pouring out of that house and down the street. They had delegated control to an expert and were getting killed, and certainly had no idea that was happening. They were a passenger and totally blind to the fact that literally they were getting driven off a financial cliff. This is what I mean by don't be a passenger. If you've ever thought that just hiring the right realtor who's an expert would take care of everything, don't do that, okay? Now, the next don't be a passenger story is on the home buyer side. So last fall, I met this sweet young couple at an open house. Within a couple of minutes, the wife had told me that they were working with her mom. She had a real estate license and had sold a lot of houses. So after the open house, the mom actually called me, and she was joking and said that her kids had told her that they had fired her and were going to hire me, which I thought was funny. So then she started asking me questions. And this was like a full-on coaching session. Marketplace analysis, how to write a compelling offer, how to think about contingencies, stuff like that. And then this woman, she called me a couple more times over the next few weeks. Now, she was a total sweetheart. I looked her up. It turns out she did have an active license and got it a long time ago. Her license is actually older than mine. She had a lot of sales in her background, a lot of them. But she hadn't sold a house in a decade. Now, a decade's a long time. Would you ever hire a surgeon that hadn't done a surgery in a decade? Or a lawyer that hadn't tried a case in 10 years? But here these nice kids were, hiring somebody that they totally trusted, her mom, having no idea that she had no idea what she was doing. Frankly, it broke my heart. With the 125 grand or so that would have been on the table in the price range that they were looking at, she was not the person that should have been handling the biggest financial event of their lives. Again, they were passengers, innocently blind to the fact that they were being driven by somebody that had no idea how to handle the car. So this is why Haus Advantage exists, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing here, because these things are not unique outliers. I see this sort of thing happening every single day here in my marketplace and then with clients across the country. Good people that have no idea that they're passengers in a car that's actually going to harm them. And so this is our second obstacle to overcome, to make sure that you are not a passenger. The first obstacle is to make sure all that money on the table in front of you isn't lost to the other fella. And then the second is to make sure that you're not a passenger. So I'm going to show you my solution to the two obstacles so that you can buy better, sell smarter, and that you won't be a passenger. And this is the Haus Advantage Roadmap. This is it right here. And when I meet privately with buyers and sellers here in Orange County or close by to show them my roadmap and strategies, what I do is I tell them to think about this like a job interview, okay? I explain that I'm the potential employee, they're the principal, and me as the realtor, the agent, actually works for them. So what I say to them is, look, what I'm going to be doing here is to show you what we would do together if I got the job to be your broker. And that's exactly how I'm going to frame all of this for the rest of this workshop, okay? So I've divided this journey on this roadmap is 3 different stages. Now, it's not rocket science, it's not brain surgery, it's a simple map. And the first stage is preparation. So the first stage, preparation, is where we make a move-ready plan. All of the actions here are laying out your timeline, building out the strategy plan for the rest of the journey. And the key obstacle that we need to overcome in this planning I call costly confidence. Costly confidence is something that I see all the time. It is when people assume that they've hired somebody or they themselves know what should happen based upon their experience and their knowledge. But costly confidence can get expensive fast if it's not the right plan. So then stage two. Stage two is where the action starts. That's here. This is what I call market navigation. The two key actions in market navigation is when we start to read and understand your specific marketplace, and then we start to apply the strategies that we built back in stage one. And the obstacle that stage two overcomes, I call market drift. Market drift is the super common error of when you start to react to the marketplace, to headlines or emotions or external pressure. What market navigation does is it's designed to keep you on course no matter what obstacles might pop up along the way. And then the third stage, final stage, it's the steps where the journey concludes. For buyers, the final stage starts when you're ready to write an offer. And for sellers, it's when somebody has got an offer for you. And the stage is called transaction control. And it solves the obstacle of closing pressure. Closing pressure is what happens when you can potentially miss an important detail, or you're tempted to change up the plan to try to just make a deal work. And the two things we do here, it's obviously number one is we're negotiating the contract, how to do that itself, and then to manage any issues that come up along the way that might arise prior to closing. And then at the very end of it, that's the goal. I'm going to do it in yellow. The goal is you're getting your keys or you're getting the money from the sale. That's the entire purpose of this entire roadmap. After looking at this quick roadmap and all the complicated stuff there, thinking, great, you got a plan and a system, but what is going to be done and how is that going to get me the results I need and want? And what's different about what you're doing? Perfect question. And frankly, that's the question that you need to ask any realtor that you might interview. What is different about what you do and how exactly is it going to help me better than anybody else that I can talk to? So there are 5 buyer and seller strategies that are the center of my roadmap plan. And each of them is designed to confront the specific challenges that every single buyer and every single seller has to overcome. And by identifying these challenges and then the solutions to them, that is how we increase the chances of getting the best possible outcome on the way to our goal. And what's interesting, it's very rare that you will ever know what the most important challenges are that you need to overcome on any particular home sale. And that goes for whether you're buying or selling. Nobody really knows what's going to cause the perfect outcome. Buyers certainly don't, sellers don't, realtors don't. In some cases, the other party, they themselves might actually not even be aware of what is going to be the most important thing to them. Years ago, my son was selling his motorcycle. Guy shows up to buy it, and Jack told me, I'm not going to discount it, Papa. $2,500, full price. Take it or leave it. So a few minutes later, he pops back in the house, and he's proudly showing me a stack $2,100 bills. I'm like, Jack, what happened to the whole take it or leave it? And he explained to me that the guy walked up to him and he kind of slowly and theatrically counted out 20 Benjamins and handed them out. And Jack just kind of reaches out and grabs them. The idea of all that cash in one big stack overwhelmed Jack's certainty over his price. That's the same principle that can often apply in real estate for both sides. The strategies I'm going to show you are the home purchase or the home sale version of putting a bunch of Benjamins in front of a teenager. And the key to it is it's not random or accidental. And that's part of the advantage of having this roadmap and thinking through the various strategies in advance so that you're prepared for detours or surprises that can come up. And the analogy that I use with all of them is that it's like ingredients in a recipe. And just like with any recipe, the quality of the ingredients determines the quality of the result. And all of the ingredients matter, just like in a recipe. You don't skip ingredients because your result is going to change. So let me show you this. So these right here, these are my 5 buying strategies and my 5 selling strategies. So each strategy is here, and then the challenge that it is designed to overcome with a little short description of each of them. So you've got the strategy, what it overcomes, and exactly what it is. So what I want to do is I want to start with the buyer side, and I want to talk about one of my very favorites here. It's called buyer staging. Buyer staging. So let's talk about that. My clients, Chris and Rachel, bought a house in Lake Forest. Let me show you this house here. So Chris and Rachel bought this house in Lake Forest. And as we were getting ready to present an offer, we find out there's a competitor, and it was going to be a multiple offer situation. Now, that's the big scare if you're a home buyer, right? You find the right house, and then you find out that you're going to have to compete for it against somebody else. And then we found out something even worse, potentially. The other buyer was all cash. So if you're buying a house, how would you feel that if you found out that the house you wanted was being pursued by a cash buyer? You probably wouldn't feel great. However, we changed nothing about our approach. Even after hearing that there was a competitive all-cash buyer, all 3 of the stages of the roadmap are designed to help keep that plan front and center, no matter what pops up along the way, and that's exactly what we did. So here's what happened. Not only did Chris and Rachel get that house in Lake Forest, their sales price was less than the offer price of the all-cash buyer. The seller accepted our financed lower offer. How did we do that? It was this strategy of buyer staging, in this case, that made all the difference. So let me explain it to you. Buyer staging directly confronts the issue of seller perception, what the seller thinks of you and your agent. And the key part of it is that buyer staging, all of the setup for that happens way before the offer is ever presented. It's even all set up before the right house is ever found. We had put that into play months earlier. And the result of effective buyer staging is to become the buyer that the seller actually wants to work with. If you can get a seller excited and positive about you and your agent, that totally changes the circumstances for when the offer itself is presented. Now, how many of you have heard of the phrase or the concept of home staging when you're selling a house? Put the word stage in the chat if you've heard of that before. Home staging. So home staging, it is when a seller takes a vacant home and puts furniture and accessories in it and everything else. Nobody's living in the house. And they do that to elevate the experience of the house, to make it easier for the buyer to have an increased emotional reaction, so they'll pay more for it. That's the whole point of staging. Builders are the ones that do the best job of that. Well, my concept of buyer staging flips that whole thing upside down. It's what we do to get a seller to want you to be their buyer. Now, I'm sure you've heard of this idea of having buyers write personal letters to a seller. This is not that. Buyer letters are actually kind of a thing of the past. They kind of turned into a, hey, would you please take less for the house because we really love it and the front yard really reminds us so much of Grammy and Grandpa's house? That's a last minute Hail Mary hope and prayer tactic. That is not how you buy a house like a pro. So the details of buyer staging, there are 2 parts to it. There are responsibilities for you as the buyer and then also for your agent. And here's the thing, a home sale oftentimes is about much more than just the offer price. And that's certainly what happened with Chris and Rachel. Sometimes selling a home can be personal. Sometimes sellers do care about who's going to be buying and living in their home. So you absolutely have to check that box, and just writing a letter isn't enough. But it also can be about reducing risk for the seller. Are you the buyer that they want to take the house off the market for? I was actually talking to this listing agent last night, right, the house my buyers are interested in, trying to find out what's kind of been going on. They had rejected an offer from a buyer just because they didn't get a good feel about them. There's nothing tangible, not a good feel. And they're like, you know what? We're not going to take the house off the market for a week and a half just to find out later that they're flakes or something. And so sellers are thinking this, are there potential red flags? Or are there signals being sent by the buyer and the buyer's agent that it's going to be smooth sailing? And that's another aspect. Seller wants to know that the buyer has all their ducks in a row, of course, financing and everything else, because you want the agent and that seller to know that you are their dream buyer, right? And that's where your agent comes in too. They would prefer to have the buyer represented by somebody that knows what they're doing. It isn't going to be a total nightmare throughout the process. No listing agent wants to be a babysitter. And I've heard this so many times over the years from listing agents. Hey, Mike, just so you know, the other agent involved, the other competitor, they really don't know what they're doing. Or the other agent, they seem like they're going to be a total headache. So we're going with your guys. I've heard that so many times. So hitting all of these potential hot buttons, it takes careful planning and execution. None of it's just accidental last minute if you want the maximum impact. So this is what we did with Chris and Rachel. And it turned out that all parts of it were super important to the listing agent and the seller. And at the time, we had no idea. We didn't find out any of this stuff till after we had closed. But that's how they ended up taking less money from us than the all cash buyers. And frankly, I still chuckle about it. When I think about the agent that was representing those all cash buyers, when the deal closed, they looked on their phone and saw the final price going, how did that happen? My guys offered more. I just love that. Right. And now they may have thought it was an insider deal or something fishy happened, but of course it didn't. It was just that Chris and Rachel were playing a totally different game than they or their clients were playing. It was chess and checkers, what was happening on that home sale. And that's what you want. And that has nothing to do with the price. That is why buyer staging is essential if you want to buy better. Okay, so now let's talk about one of the seller strategies. So I want to ask you a question. Who do you think, if you're a seller, right? There's a few people in here, I'm sure they're selling. Who should pick the listing price of your home? Should it be you or the listing agent? Put your answer in the chat here, please. Whose responsibility is it to determine the asking price? Okay, DJ says the agent. Anybody else have an idea? Whose responsibility is it for the listing price? All right, so let's go back to this. And my answer is that the price should be chosen by you as the home seller. Now, this might be something that you've not heard of before. Yet I think it is an essential strategy to get the most amount of money for your home. You setting the price, that's this one right here. So this is strategy number 2. The owner sets the price. It overcomes value uncertainty. Your biggest challenge as a home seller is that you don't know what any particular buyer out in the marketplace is going to be willing to pay for your house. Of course, you want them to pay more, right? But there's no way really to know what's going on in their head. And the common and normal thing to happen here is that the listing agent is relied upon. Hey, so what do you think we should list it for? What do you think the right price of the house is? When we're done here, go to YouTube or just Google the topic after the workshop. Who picks the price of the house? you're going to get pages and pages of realtor posts saying things like, if a seller's not going to list at the price that I tell them, I won't work with them. Or an article of why the agent should pick the listing price. They're the pro or whatever. So I think it's a terrible idea. I think you should pick the price that you want for the home, and then the agent's job is to go out and get that price. Does the car salesman tell the dealership owner what they think the car should sell for? Of course not. This is the price of the car, Tom. Go out and sell it, and if you can't, go find another job. So there are two reasons why you want to be the one to decide the price and why you don't want to delegate it to your agent. Number one, it's incentives. The real estate agent wants to sell the house fast. They want their commission right away, and they want to be able to send out a sold in 3 days marketing flyer and post it on Instagram. They're getting a quick commission, and having killer marketing content may not be your highest priority. The only priorities that should influence pricing or the home should be your priorities. And then the number two reason not to let an agent pick the price, I call it blowing smoke. Oftentimes an agent will pitch a likely sales price in order to tell a seller something they'd like to hear. And I've seen this happen hundreds of times. Wait, that agent says that they could get you X? That's ridiculous. I could get you Y dollars more than that. You need to hire me. Here's the thing. They're all just guessing and making stuff up. Don't play that game. Nobody knows what a house is going to sell for. Guessing or blowing smoke doesn't change that. Now, the agent does have a responsibility here, so don't miss this part. The agent has a responsibility. They need to have a system that educates you on your marketplace. What are the prices doing? What are the inventory levels doing? How does your house fit in the current homes in the marketplace? They need to help you with that. And then once you understand all of that, then you consider what your timing needs are, and then you pick the price yourself. Bottom line, your house, it should be your price. That's the way you get the maximum net proceeds. This house here, this is in Costa Mesa. So Ray and Idell hired me to sell their parents' house. This was in Costa Mesa. Sticking with this strategy, I helped them understand the market, where that house on Conway Drive would fit in. They picked the listing price. Frankly, their choice was like $100,000 more than I thought the house would sell for. I was like, okay. And of course, we went with their number because that's the system. And it turns out they were right. They had multiple offers. We got just below their asking price. If I had opened my big mouth and convinced them to take my number, that would have cost them money, probably $70,000 or $80,000. This right here is a perfect example of how this strategy can put more money in your pocket as a seller. Okay, now I want to talk about one more, and this is strategy number 5. And this is a unique one because this one applies to buyers and sellers. It is by far my favorite strategy for buying and selling. Frankly, I could spend the next 5 hours telling you story after story of how this made such a huge difference for my clients. And that is this here. And that is to do your offers in person. So how many of you here have actually ever heard of doing the offers in person? Put the word me in the chat if you've ever heard of that before. If you're old like me, it's a greater likelihood that you have. So the reality is the majority of offers nowadays are done by email. The buyer's agent sends off a PDF to the listing agent. The listing agent discusses it with the seller. Then they communicate an acceptance or a counteroffer back by email within a day or 2 or 3 of back and forth. But that's not how it used to be. It used to be that the vast majority of all offers were actually presented in person. When I first got into the business, that's the way it was done all the time. In fact, you actually had to get permission to fax an offer. Two quick stories about this. I'm going to tell you why this is so important. So last fall, did an in-person offer on one of my listings. In the meeting, it was Richard, my seller, the buyer's agent, and then his two clients. It was this sweet young couple. In fact, I'm going to show you. This is Richard's house here. Okay. The buyer's agent had actually never even heard of doing in-person offers before. Guy's like 25 years old, but he was totally game. The thing went perfectly. The whole meeting was done in about 15 minutes, just as we planned. But we could tell in the moment that our counteroffer was more than they wanted to pay. And then later, the buyer's agent told me that it was like $20,000 more than the ceiling that they had discussed beforehand. And this entire conversation happened just to the left of this picture at Richard's dining room table. So we find out later that our counteroffer was literally 20 grand higher than their ceiling. There was some private discussion. Richard and I were sitting outside here on his little Adirondack chairs. They were inside the house here, and they were discussing it. They accepted our counteroffer. The whole thing took 15 minutes. It was magical. And then afterwards, the husband, the buyer's agent, and I were out in the front of the house. So we're standing out here after the meeting is over. Buyer's agent, husband, and me, three of us, standing out in the driveway. And we realized that Richard, my seller, and the wife were still inside the house talking. So we kind of walked back in. It was interesting. Both Richard and the guy's wife were crying, and it was obvious that they had just finished up a hug. She was emotional because her dream of having her kids run around in this big backyard had just come true. Richard was emotional because he didn't want some investor to buy his house as some sort of money deal. He wanted actual human beings. And there were two human beings that were dreaming of kids running around his backyard. Now, a couple things to think about this meeting here. 15 minutes long, and the whole deal was inked. Momentum, good feelings maximized, perfection. And that extra $20,000, in the moment, that would have never happened if it was just counteroffers on a phone discussed later that night or the next day, something like that. That would have never, ever happened. And then you've got the real life emotions of three-dimensional human beings in person interacting instead of just DocuSign PDFs going back and forth by robot. Because you as a seller, you want the buyer making the money decision in what might be their new house. And you want to start things off on as good of a footing as possible. I call that cancellation insurance. That's how all of that comes together when you're doing it in person. I'm going to give you a buyer side story here. A couple of years ago, I was representing Scott and Danielle. This was a house that they wanted to buy in the city of Orange. And in talking about it, Danielle was concerned about bringing her kids to the in-person offer meeting that we had already set up with the listing agent. I said, no. Danielle, definitely bring your kids. So we're at the house. We're literally sitting on this couch, talking back and forth. It's actually the same picture, same couches. And it started to get a little rancorous with the listing agent. The seller was in the house, but was silent the entire time. So we're doing counter offers. It was getting very difficult and tense. So we're off in another room in the back of the house. The seller and the agent were discussing what was kind of a stalemate at this point. The seller walks in herself. Now, she hadn't said a word other than hi at the very beginning. So it was a little bit weird. And then she explained. So she was the successor trustee. She was selling the home for the family. Her parents had passed away. And then she told us that in the middle of all of this, she called her brother. And they decided to bypass all of this back and forth and just accept our initial offer, which was about 50 grand less than where the counters were at that point. And it turns out she realized that Scott and Danielle's kids were the same age that she and her brother were when her folks had bought the house 60 years before. I get chills thinking about it. Now, would that 50 grand have been on the table had we not shown up in person? Almost certainly not. Now, does this happen all the time? Of course not. Sometimes you can't even get the meeting, but oftentimes it does. And this right here is why you need to always put all of the ingredients into the mix to get the recipe just right. In my experience across the marketplace, in-person offers are exceptionally rare. You got to find somebody my age or older that has ever done it. But what that means is basically nobody puts this strategy into practice, neither real estate agents or buyers or sellers. It's not a priority at all in the marketplace. And what that tells me, as far as I'm concerned, that's money that's left on the table on almost every single sale that happens across the country. Let this sit for a second. For me, and in my program, this is an essential strategy. You just heard these two stories. But in the marketplace, it basically almost never happens. That's money lost by somebody on almost every single sale. When you're interviewing a realtor, ask them about it. Ask them about doing an offer in person, and then listen, watch them. They'll either look at you like you just started speaking in ancient Greek, or they're just going to quickly say, oh, no, nobody does that. And that's a problem. It is a powerful strategy for buyers and for sellers. Frankly, I could go into story after story on all 5 of these on the buyer and seller side, how one or the other made a difference, or how a combination turned out to be super powerful or important. A key point about all of it is that I almost never find out what was the most impactful thing until way later. And up front, you're basically never going to know. It's impossible to know which one of these is going to make the difference or what the combination is. And sometimes none of them will. But what you do is you stack them all together, all of these ingredients, that increases the chances of one of them really hitting home. I can tell you this, none of your competition, none of the parties that are across the table from you are going to be running this sort of program. This right here is buying or selling like a pro. This is how you buy better and sell smarter. And you understanding all of it and being in control of the entire process from the very beginning all the way to the end to make sure that it's all being done correctly. That's how you do it, by not being a passenger. So hopefully the thing you've taken away from what I've been talking about here is that there are too many different opportunities throughout this journey to unknowingly leave money on the table or make costly mistakes. And right as we discussed at the beginning, the amount of money that's potential for a costly mistake is roughly 10% of the price of whatever home you're thinking about. Guessing or hoping isn't a reliable strategy to make sure that you don't lose that money. So the vast majority of the competitors in your marketplace are not aware of these solutions I've just showed you, and they've got no idea or no plan, or they've delegated it to some agent who may or may not know themselves, and they don't know how to recognize what's being done correctly. So what do you do next? There's 2 things you can do at this point. You can take the information that I've given you, and you can try to do this on your own, or you can get my help. And if you'd like my help, I've got 2 different options for you. Firstly, if you're here in Orange County, if you don't have a real estate agent, we can set up a quick chat about your plan and what you're looking for. And then we can discuss whether or not it would make sense for us to work together with me as your broker. And then we literally would put this entire plan into action together. That's option 1. Second option is for anybody else inside of Orange County, outside of Orange County, across the country. And it's for you whether or not you have a realtor, or maybe you're not even going to use one at all. And it's a very unique option. And it's the only thing like it in the marketplace. And it's called the Next Step Advantage Program. It's a two-part program. Step one is 30 days. So in the first 30 days, I'm going to give you all of the tools. We're going to create your roadmap. You're going to learn and understand all of these strategies, all of the tactics to buy or sell like a pro. You will know exactly all of the details about what it takes to buy better, sell smarter, and not be a passenger. That's step one. And then step two follows that. We'll put this system into action together, and you're going to get my private coaching, my guidance through the remainder of your journey. It's literally me walking through the entire journey with you, helping you, advising you along the way. Regardless of the realtor you hire, I'm in your corner to help you make sure that you get the outcome you want. So if this one is interesting to you, I can send you the offer document. It's got all the details, all of the pricing, and then we book a call to talk through that as well. So the two options that I've got for you. So first option is, this is for OC residents for me to be your broker. Okay. And this is for OC residents. And this is literally the next step is for me to interview with you to see if it fits and makes sense for both of us for me to be your agent. And then the next one is the Advantage program. That's literally across the country. And this is private guidance. In both cases, it is the exact same methodology. It's the exact same system. It's just a different delivery process. So just email me back which one you would like to discuss. And the email address is easy. It's mph@houseadvantage.com. I'll put it in the chat here too. mph@houseadvantage.com. Obviously, after this, you're going to get these notes that I'm going to be sending you. You can just respond back if you've got any questions about it as well. Okay, so now let's open it up if there are any questions that you might have. Okay, how long does the Advantage program last? Great question, DJ. So I said it's two pieces. The first is the 30 days to basically bring you up to speed, to turn you into a pro. That's a month. And then the next piece is 5 months. So 5 months to help you buy a house, 5 months to help you sell a house, 5 months to help you buy and sell a house. So 6 months total. Great question. Okay, so John, your question about staging an old house for showing and the cost thereof. So strictly speaking, staging is anything you do to the house to get it ready for sale, okay? It could be as simple as straightening the towels hanging in your kitchen and your bathroom. That's staging, or vacuuming. That's one part. All the way to a complete and total remodel of the house. That's everything and anything. So if the house is empty, staging is literally putting all those furnitures and those accessories in the house. So for my clients, the staging company that I use, it's literally zero cost, and then it's paid out of the proceeds. And round numbers, staging an empty house is by far the very best return on investment you can possibly do. It is roughly a 3 to 5x return. There's literally nothing better you can do for a house than staging. So staging is a no-brainer. Even if the house is a total fixer and it's completely dated, running a vacuum through that house and putting staging in it completely elevates it from a wholesale product to retail. That's how you take a house from garage sale level to maybe Walmart or even Costco, but Walmart and Costco are still better than a garage sale. It does make sense if there are certain things that can be done that will have a multiple return on investment. Like Richard's house, for example, the house that I just showed you where we did the offer in person on my listing. Let me show you the pictures of it here. So when I first went to Richard's house, These walls here were dark brown. These walls here were bright orange. So we absolutely had to repaint the entire inside of his house. Probably cost him, I don't know, I think it was like $7,000 to repaint the inside of the house. And it could not have been a bigger before and after difference. It went from dark and depressing and old and dated to light and bright and beautiful and airy. That probably was a $30,000, $40,000 swing in his selling price. Oh my gosh, yes, people absolutely. That's a great question. So the question here is, I bet people waste money on fixing the wrong things that don't matter. Yeah, so there's two things. Is number one, fixing the wrong thing, or maybe spending too much money fixing the right thing. I had a seller in Costa Mesa years ago. The guy was a contractor, and he was doing a bunch of work to the house. And he knew he was going to hire me to sell the house, but he wouldn't actually engage to talk to me about the specifics of the work that he was doing. And David probably spent 6 months and $80,000 wasting time and money. The problems that his house had, he didn't spend a nickel on, he didn't spend a minute fixing. In fact, the buyers that ended up buying his house literally told me after the fact, you know, all that stuff that he did, we're just tearing that crap out because it's awful. Yeah, it's super duper possible. In fact, I would say that it is more common that people waste money on fixing the wrong things or things that don't matter than doing the right fixes on the right things. Yeah, I can't be your agent in Houston, DJ, but I can do you one better. I can be on your shoulder, in your corner, helping you regardless of the agent you hire. So that's what the Advantage program would do for you, DJ. Okay, again, guys, thank you so much for being here.
I've lived in 10 different states, and so I've conducted a lot of real estate transactions, and I have to tell you the finest real estate professional that I've ever run across is Michael Hausen. He's helped me with 5 different transactions. The one that really comes to mind is a service that I'm not sure you're going to find from anyone. I was needing to sell an investment condo that I had in Boston while living in California. He not only helped me find a local broker there, but he also helped me with the kind of working with him remotely to get a quick sale at a good price. Just unbelievable service, and can't recommend him enough. I've referred him to at least 3 other people, and he's done a great job for them. And I think of him as the real estate whisperer.
So as a first-time home buyer, I felt pretty overwhelmed and didn't exactly know where to start. Michael was a great advisor in helping me navigate the path from choosing the right agent to dealing with a mortgage broker, all the way through closing on a home. He really helped me understand the process and how it should work, and the things that I need to be doing and look out for, and also the things that I should avoid. And having him as my advisor, essentially my consultant and not just a realtor, was incredibly helpful. And I recommend that anyone doing a real estate transaction would greatly benefit from having him on your team.
A few years ago, my wife and I made the move from Los Angeles to Arizona, and we needed to sell our house in a fairly quick manner. Michael helped us through that process in just a tremendously wonderful way. He walked us through the way the market was. He helped us balance the offers we were being given. He helped us set up our home for sale to get the most we could from it. And most importantly, he never pressured us to actually take any deals. And would always help us consider the pros and cons of every offer we were given. On the flip side of that, as we moved to Phoenix, he helped us remotely, first by finding us a wonderful realtor here in Phoenix, but also during that process, advising us as we were buying our home. I can't recommend anyone more highly than I do Michael. He really was tremendous on both sides of our real estate transactions, on selling our home, as well as helping us buy a home in Phoenix where he really wasn't getting anything out of it other than the joy of helping a former or current or forever client. I highly recommend him. Thank you.